This is a space for collaborative leaders who are done choosing between people and performance. They're ready to build healthier cultures, lead with emotional resilience, and redefine what sustainable leadership looks like in the real world.
Welcome to the Shine Leadership Advantage, where we explore how women leaders can leverage their personal growth to build happy, healthy, and high-performing cultures without the burnout. I'm your host, Jennifer Cavender, executive coach and consultant. And as someone who spent 20 years as a CPA motivated by other people's desires for me, I'm now passionate about showing leaders how to leverage joy for better results and less stress. In partnering with Debbie Prediger, founder of the Be Extraordinary Women's Network and creator of the Shine Framework, I discovered that the Shine principles are the most important for personal growth and foundational to my leadership coaching and principles in the success of my clients. If you're new here, be sure to listen to episode 0, where I interview Debbie Prediger about why this conversation is so important now and why she asked me to host it. Today, I'm here with Dr. Rawson to talk about the CEO mindset, leadership that holds under pressure. As a seasoned entrepreneur, leadership strategist, and founder of the CIC Initiative, DR has launched more than 30 companies and authored 4 books focused specifically on character-driven leadership and trust-based influence. He challenges leaders to align actions with values, strengthens resilience, and understands that authority is never claimed. It is demonstrated consistently over time. So welcome to the stage, DR. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I give a brief introduction, but I would love for you to give us your 2-minute introduction of how you ended up doing what you're doing now.
Well, it's been a long journey. I didn't start out to be a CEO. I went to work for someone just like everybody else did. I worked for someone before I went in the Air Force, and when I got out of the Air Force, I needed a job, so I went back to the same people that I'd worked for before, and at first they said no, and then they found out my skill set and said, yeah. My skill set was that I'd set up inventory and warehouses all over Southeast Asia. So they were setting up a brand new warehouse, and somebody had told them it was going to take 6 months, and I had it done in 90 days. So after a short bit, things became tough, and they said to me, well, we're going to have to let you go. Things are kind of tough, and unless you can demonstrate to us where you're going to be in 5 years and how it's going to help the company. I said, well, that's pretty simple. I said, I want your job. I said, you're fired. I said, okay. So the next day, his dad called me and said, what are you going to do now? I said, well, I don't have a window or a pot, so I guess I'm going to do something. And so he convinced me and 10 of the manufacturers that we should be together. And so I went to Florida to start a company, and that's how I became a CEO. They funded everything. And I was very successful at that, and then just went on from there. So I've been a CEO since I was 21.
And when did you discover that character and integrity were really key elements of leadership?
Oh, I discovered that from my grandfather. When I came back from Vietnam, my parents had both died. And my grandfather calls me and he says, I understand you're going to take on your brother and your youngest sister. I said, yeah, I am. And he says, I'm going to tell you, DR, you're not equipped to do that. You're too young. I was 21 at the time. And he says, you're too young. And I said, well, I got all this experience. And I, no, you don't. He says, you're too young. He says, but I'll tell you, I'm going to help you. And I said, Grandpa, you live 2,000 miles from me. How the heck are you going to help me? He said, well, I'm going to tell you and give you the principle you need to solve problems that you're going to have. I said, really? He says, yeah. He says, you got a problem in your ministry, you got a problem with your family, your business, just yourself, and just any problem that you can think of that you have, call me. And I will give you the principle. I'll never give you the answer, but I'll give you the principle. I said, okay, well, let's give it a shot. So for 25 years, my grandfather would say, all right, that's an interesting problem. Here's the principle that you need to use in order to solve that problem. And it worked for 25 years. Later on, he said to me, would you become a Mason? I said, yes. I first said no. And he said, you know all those principles that I've given you? He says, they only come from two places. And I said, what's that? He said, Masonry and religion. And you already got religion covered. So he says, I think you're good there. He says, but now you've got all the Masonic principles as well. So I became a very principled person at a very early age and used that in my leadership constantly. And a lot of that is about how you deal with people. The Bible's just full of issues about how you deal with people. And Masonic is the same way. It's things that you do that this is the way you treat people. So that, coupled with the fact that I spent 9 years playing sports, playing football, I spent a number of years playing semi-pro football. I played for the Air Force and I played for a team afterwards. And so when you become a team for that long, that's the mindset you have, is that, come on, we're all in this together. Let's make this work. And so it's not about me, it's about us. It's always about us. And I would rather give credit to someone else than take credit myself. If you look around behind me, I apologize for it not being very clear. That's the camera. But you can see those plaques and stuff on the wall, all those I love you plaques that people have given me over the years. And they're great, but they all represent the fact that we've accomplished something. We have accomplished something. It's not I accomplished something. We accomplished something. And I consider them very dear to me because I started out life as a homeless kid. So to have accomplished all these things that I've done and had all these companies and all that, and people said of me that it's unlikely that he'll ever succeed, I did okay for myself.
So you've had so many different types of opportunities to lead and to be on teams. I'm so curious how you kept this idea of people are important and that others are just as important as you, because we see so many leaders who fall into this trap of getting into the ego and really being obsessed with wanting to be right or being the biggest hero. What is it that has kept you from falling into that trap?
Well, I'm a father of 6 and grandfather of 18 and great-grandfather of 9. So children kind of teach you a lot of things. And I learned early as a young father that if you have to say, because I said so, you've lost. You just totally lost it right there. And your leadership skills went to 0. And the kids go, yeah, I'm not doing that. Yeah, that's not working for me. And so you learn that very early as a father. And it's the same thing as a business person. If you have to lead by your title, I'm the CEO, I'm the CFO, I'm the COO, whatever it is, you got a problem. You have a serious problem. You know, they've made me the manager of this line, so you have to follow me. Well, as soon as you say, I have to, you've lost. But people say, yeah, right. I'll follow you. So I learned that early on, that if I focused everything I had on others, it always came back and they responded so well. I even experimented unintentionally myself with the opposite of that. And when I was 25, I was diagnosed and told that I was going to die at age 42, approximately. At that time, I had 4 children. Then we went on to have 6. So my wife didn't work. I had a lot of pressure. I owned my own business and I was a minister at the time. And so I had a lot going on. And all I could think about is, man, I'm going to wind up leaving my family at exactly the same age as my father left his. And I'm going to wind up leaving these kids without a father. And all I could think about was just having sufficient funds for my family. So my wife comes to me one day and she says, "Do you realize what you're doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to do business here. What do you have in mind specifically?" She says, "You're using people." I said, "No, I'm not." She says, "No, you are." She says, "You find out somebody can be of help to you or you can get business from them. You just get business from them and then forget them. You don't deal with them again." I said, "That can't be true." She says, "No." And she says, "Let me demonstrate it to you." She says, "How do you spell tact?" I said, "TACT, just like everybody else." She says, "No, no, no, no. You spell it PISSONYOU." I said, "Wow. Are you kidding me?" She says, "No." He says, "I'm telling you straight. That's the way it is." I spent about 10 hours trying to think that through and went, "Oh my gosh, I can't be that person. That's not who I want to be." So I came up with a personal tagline for myself. It's, "How can I be helpful?" And that has put me in good stead with employees, customers, lots of people. I decided to make sure that my life wasn't about, hey, this is what I want to get, as opposed to what I want to give.
Yes.
Completely different mindset.
I love this, DR, because it really, first of all, it ties into one of our Shine principles, which is self-awareness. So your wife helped you see how you were showing up when you were unaware.
Yep.
And then the second thing I love about it is that you had an opportunity to adjust, to change, to evolve into something or someone who showed up differently,
Yeah.
which is the E in our Shine principles, the importance of evolving. So you have created this way for leaders called the CIC process, right?
Yeah.
That really helps them become aware of how they're showing up and then gives them an opportunity to make a different choice. Tell us about CIC.
All right. Well, CIC is all about principles. And the principles here are character, integrity, and credibility. Now, if you talk to people, they would say, "Yeah, I think I'm credible. I do what I say and I think I'm credible." Well, guess what? You don't get to assign whether you're credible or not. That comes from somebody else. It's not something you say, "Oh, I'm credible." Yeah. No, you don't get to do that. That's other people's responsibilities. What you can control is each decision you make every day. Each decision, each ask can be shaped so that you make a decision or a request based on character and your integrity. So, character might be beginning with respect. If you show your employees respect, they'll respond because they know you're listening, because listening is the first step of respect. So, when you start listening to people, genuinely listening to people, and then acting accordingly, people get that message right away. Oh, he cares. He listens. That's number one. Okay. Number two, you accept responsibility for what you've done. You don't go to the employees and say, "Well, we made a mistake." No, no, you made the mistake. You're the leader. You made the mistake. So I would say, clearly, I've made a mistake. That took it off of them completely. I made a mistake. Obviously, I gave the wrong direction. I gave the wrong idea about what should be done. And so you correct it. You do a course correction. It's not a big problem. And it doesn't threaten me and it doesn't make me feel small and it doesn't change who I am as the leader. I'm still the CEO. Nothing changed. But for them, For the people listening to me, it changed dramatically. Oh, he didn't just blame us, he took the blame himself. That's a big difference. And suddenly they then trust you. They feel safe in the environment. And when people feel safe, they are engaged. Do you know what the biggest cost is to American business today?
What?
Lack of engagement.
Yes.
Do you know what that costs?
I don't. How much?
4.3 billion to 1.1 trillion dollars
Hmm.
in lost production.
And that's a worldwide number?
That's a US number.
Okay, so we've got even more overseas. I was comparing the US numbers. I think the Europe numbers are only slightly lower than the US.
It's a worldwide problem. Fortunate to have traveled the world more than 25 times and been in businesses all over the world, all kinds of businesses. And I've watched leaders make these same mistakes over.
And would you say that that is the biggest issue or challenge that leaders face today is engagement?
I would say the biggest problem they face is lack of credibility, which causes lack of engagement.
And so what's your solution? Tell us a little bit about that.
All right. Well, first of all, you indicated that I wrote a book. So I'm going to show the book right now. This is a 40-page book. It's not rocket science. It's not tough to read. It's 40 pages. And what it does is it allows you to score your own character, integrity, and credibility. And when you finish, you look at that and go, well, I thought it was more credible than that. I thought I had more character than that. Or I thought my integrity was pretty high. And suddenly you find out it's not. You know, there's areas where you can improve. The next book that's coming out is called CIC. It looks like a Bible. It's got a logo on it, and it's just got character, integrity, and credibility. And inside, 3 volumes, and the first volume is just character. Character is composed of 53 traits. With children, we have a company called Tiny Tales Land, and we teach character traits to children. We teach 25 of them. To adults, they're not as smart as kids, so we teach 10. And the first 5 are respect, responsibility, resilience, kindness, and joy. Now, why those 5 things? If you were saying to yourself, I wonder if he'd be a good friend, or I wonder if she'd be right for me, you can judge them on the basis of those 5 character traits. Do they respect you? Are they resilient? If you say, well, I really don't like that at all, how do they respond? Do they take responsibility? When you decide, yeah, I'm going to do this, and you agree you're going to do that, okay, great. And then they don't do it, well, maybe they don't take responsibility. So those 5 things, if you total them up, is something that if people have them, they're engaging. They're somebody you want to associate with. And the other 5, things like honesty and gratitude, those kinds of things, they just support the first 5. That's how it works.
I love that you break it down and make it simple because you're right. As we mature, we tend to complicate things and then we get overwhelmed and then we just push it aside. But when you boil it down to 5 things that we can easily consume, it does make it much more easy to implement and to figure out what we can shift or how we can identify the types of people that we want to be around. Because it's been said that we are the combination of the people that we spend the most time with.
That's right. Including our bosses, including the leaders that we work with every day. We become part of them, whether we realize it or not. We accept some of the uniqueness in our own personalities, for better or for worse.
Yeah. And you have a way for leaders to assess what their CIC score is.
Yes. Yep. That's what this book is all about.
Yeah. And what have you seen happens when leaders have a low CIC score?
Oh, well, these are the guys that are asking themselves, second guessing themselves, really, why aren't they listening to me?
Hmm.
Why aren't they doing what I tell them to do? I mean, I've got these great ideas, and we could get so much further if they would just listen to me. Okay, well, there's a reason why they don't listen to you, because it's all about you. As soon as you make it all about them, then you can get engagement and you can improve the bottom line. If you look at a leader's position, their responsibility is to get the job done, to have a vision for what that job would be, and to get it done. But you have to get it done through others. Otherwise, you're not a leader. You're just an individual trying to get things done as you want to get done. So if you understand that as a leader, you have to work through others, then it's in your best interest to understand others. And the only way you can understand others is by first respecting them and listening to them. Let's start with that. Then the next way is to follow through in the things that you do. Now we're into the category of integrity. People know that this is your line. This is what you've said. This is what we do. This is our policy. And invariably, somebody comes up, and one particular employee is just drop dead gorgeous, and she goes up and says, I want to do this and do that. And the guy says, oh, okay, yeah, sure, go ahead and do that. The next one, maybe not as drop dead gorgeous, hard worker, accomplishes lots of things, goes up and asks for the same thing. He says, no, I don't think so. No, we don't want to do that. Well, the whole team sees that. Okay, so you treat people that are like this one way, and you treat people that are like this another way. What kind of a leader is that? Should be evenly applied, right? If you have principles and values, they should be evenly applied to all employees.
I've actually seen it in the reverse happen. But what's possible when leaders really understand this and start implementing it? What's possible for them? Like, do you have an example of someone who's really shifted and how they're showing up in these kinds of ways, and what happens?
Well, what happens is that I have leaders tell me all the time, my bottom line is suffering. Really? Do you know why? You'd be surprised the number of leaders that CEOs that don't even know how to read a bottom line, but read a balance sheet. But it's just crazy to me. They know that last month's profit, their CFO told them last month's profit was $225,000. This month, they looked in the same spot where it was last month, the bottom right-hand corner, and they go, oh, wait, it's only $200,000. What shifted? They have no idea. They have no idea how to go back into it and figure out what happened. Did somebody spend some more money, or was there a lack of production? They didn't get as many units made, or whatever it is. They have no idea how to do that. So that's a problem. And so for leaders, you need to understand that if you hire a good person, then you need to let that good person be a good person and do what you hired them to do, right? Otherwise, don't hire them. It's kind of that simple. Anyway, leaders tend to make it much more complicated than it needs to be. It's a simple case of just respecting those people that you have hired and listening to them. And as you do, you're going to find out the things that you're lacking, the voids in the company, things that can be fixed, things that can be better. And as you make those better and you live up to your word, oh, we're going to take care of that, we're going to fix this, and you actually do that, you create credibility within the company and credibility for yourself. And as a result, the employees feel safe, they feel they're respected, and they feel like they want to be there.
So what's possible is a better bottom line, more engagement, people that stay with you, are committed to you and your mission, like infinite possibilities, really.
Yeah, exactly right.
So are there impacts on a personal level for when you work with your clients? Yes, we can see impact in work and business,
Mhm.
but on a personal level.
Oh, absolutely. When you take it away from you and you're thinking about others, it impacts your life tremendously. First of all, it impacts a huge burden. It's not about you always winning. It's about us always winning.
Mm.
So that means that you're not the only one. Hey, you've got an entire team here. You've got your family, you've got your congregation, you've got the community, whatever it is. It's not just you. So when you suddenly realize that you're not alone, that's another thing that drives me nuts. CEOs say, well, it's so lonely at the top. Well, it's lonely at the top because you're not trusting anybody and you're not talking to anybody. You're just dictating your position. And so it's going to be lonely. All
Mm.
dictators, by their very nature, are lonely at the top. They keep their own counsel and they make their own decisions and they don't really care what anybody else thinks because that's what they want done. They're going to
Mm.
be lonely. I can absolutely guarantee you. And if a leader says to me he's lonely, I can tell you there's a leader who's not listening to his people, who doesn't respect his people, who doesn't work with his people.
Mhm. Do you see in the work that you do, because you've had so many different experiences in sports and in ministry and in military and in business, do you see a difference in the challenges that women face in leadership as opposed to men?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We'd like to think that we've advanced so far that we're, oh yeah, women are absolutely equal to men. Oh, B. It's just not true. It's just not true. The There are some places where you can go in some companies and some cultures that that's probably exactly true, and they do everything they can to make it so. But in most company cultures, it's just not a priority. It's not that they don't want them to be equal necessarily. It's just not a priority. Once you get that into your head, that whether you're a janitor or whether you're the corporate counsel for the company or a CPA or whatever it is, or you're a line worker or whatever, you're just as equal. And it makes no difference whether you're a man or a woman. You're just as equal as anybody else. It takes that whole team to accomplish the task. And that's the big problem with inequality is that people don't understand that we are all can be equal. Absolutely. And there's other differences. Now we can get into ethnicity and we can get into all kinds of other things and cultural backgrounds. Well, this person came from that country. So how would they possibly? It doesn't matter. That person is just as equal as you are as a human being. Treat them as a human being. And when you do that, when people see that you treat everyone on a level playing field, now you've got a different company culture. Now you've got a culture where everybody feels engaged because they also know that we're all here together.
So, what advice would you give to a CEO or an executive that says, I actually have some really valuable females in my organization, and I'm not quite sure that they're being utilized and valued in the way that they could be? What would be maybe the first step that they could take?
It says we're a team. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. Now, I had another circumstance at a company where we had tremendous loss of equipment. The people were overutilizing healthcare benefits. We had workers' compensation injuries that were through the roof. Every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, we would have an injury. We had a tremendous number of people. I was president of an international oil company, and we had them around the world. And there was just no way of getting this in hand. And my predecessor, the guy who actually founded the company, he said, I have no idea how to do this. How do we bring this in, rein this in? So I thought about it for a long time, and I said, well, the problem is that everybody's acting individually. Nobody cares about the company, and nobody cares about leadership, because this guy was kind of a dictatorial kind of guy. So I took everybody's name and put in a hat. And then everybody got to draw a name out of that hat. And that was the name of the person they were responsible for. And in some cases, they'd never met him. And in some cases, they weren't even in the same country. So in my case, the guy who was the janitor for corporate headquarters was the guy who got my name. So when I explained to everybody, I said, here's your responsibility. You need to know where that person is every day. And you need to know what the issue is. And if he's not here, you need to call the family and say, is DR okay? He didn't show up today. My wife would say, well, he's in Germany or he's in Spain or wherever he's at. Oh, okay. Well, are you okay? Because the responsibility went to the family as well. Are you Is there anything you need? No, I think I'm good. So we started doing that. And in the first 6 months, you cannot believe the difference in the company. Suddenly, everybody felt like everybody actually cared about one another.
And the connection between someone that you might assume you have nothing in common with. I can imagine these revelations of, getting to know people from a different background, from a different space, and really being able to learn from each other.
In your introduction, you indicated you were a CPA. Can you imagine the firm you worked with if the guy from the shipping dock got your name and he's calling your home? Are you okay? And your significant other answers, and he says, yeah, she's fine. She's on her way to work. She must be running late. Is she running late? Yeah. Thank you. And now you're okay.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, during the pandemic, this changed a lot of my leadership style, and we were doing a lot of that. People were having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. Well, thank you so much, DR, for having this conversation with me and just sharing a little bit of your genius with us. I'm so happy we were able to spend a little time together and you're able to share your deep knowledge with our audience.
Well, it's my pleasure. I feel like we haven't really touched on much, but I hope there's something there
There's
that's
so much. There's so much. Tell the folks how they can connect with you and have the opportunity to work with you.
I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me there, DR Rawson, my full name. You can go to my personal website, drrawson.com. The book that we talked about, Understand Your CIC, that's at mycicscore.com. There's going to be a book come out after this that explains character, integrity, and credibility, and that'll be at cicbook.com. Then we have an app coming out at the end of the year that'll make it even better, because one of the problems that we have with all of this is people still don't understand. All the years we've spent talking about leadership, and you'd think people understand this, they still don't.
Well, and in some cases, they are choosing not to. Huh?
That's an important part as well. So we got this app coming out so that if you walk away from a boardroom meeting or some meeting of your managers or people and you go, they're not trusting me, they're not listening, what am I doing wrong? You can actually put it in, and with AI, it'll search all the things we've written about character, integrity, and credibility, and it'll come back with, here's how you fix it.
Oh, I love it. Such a
Right?
powerful experience and tool. Well, thank you for what you've created and for what you do. I'm so excited to know you now and to have you as part of my, existence. So I would like to just encourage you all to connect with DR, because you can see from the brief conversation that we had that there is a wealth of knowledge sitting right there, and such great heart and belief in people. I'd really encourage you to connect with him on LinkedIn and to grab some of those books that he mentioned. Not only does he work with leaders, but also kids. And being a parent is hard sometimes. And so I think some of the things that he shares would be amazing resources for you as parents. So thank you for joining us today. And as I always remind you, the bottom line is that thriving cultures don't start with better perks and policies. They start with leaders who are willing to heal and grow and lead from a place of wholeness and joy. And that is the Shine Leadership Advantage. Thank you.